The whole town's chatting about Cincinnati. What a team, what a team, what a team. Each man and lady from 1 to 80, how they scream, how they scream, how they scream.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of We Love Our Team. Along with my co-host, Randy Freaking, we're pleased to welcome Ohio Governor Mike DeWine to our podcast today. Governor DeWine has had a long and distinguished career as a public servant. He was previously the 50th Attorney General of Ohio and has previously been elected to serve as Greene County Prosecutor, Ohio State Senator, U.S. Congressman, Ohio Lieutenant Governor, and U.S. Senator. He and his wife, Fran, have 8 children, 28 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. And we are honored to have him with us. Welcome, Governor.
Good to be with you today. Appreciate it.
So, as you know, we're here to talk about your Reds fandom, so no politics.
No politics is good.
Yeah, we thought you'd appreciate this kind of interview.
You guys are the highlight of my day. So.
Well, that's good to know, and you are certainly the highlight of our week. How about that? So, hey, why don't you take us back to some of your earliest memories? I think you're a lifelong Reds fan, and tell us about some of the early memories you have.
Yeah, so, my wife Fran and I grew up in Yellow Springs, born in 1947. So you can about imagine when I first, became interested in baseball, probably, 6 or 7 years of age. And I remember the 56 team set a record for home runs, which lasted, I think, for a number of decades. And, Ted Kluszewski and, let's see, Johnny Temple, second base, and Roy McMillan, shortstop, and they had different third basemen. Don Hoke was one, and out in the outfield, Greengrass, and certainly Wally Post, Gus Bell. So that's what I first, became interested in baseball. My dad had always been interested in baseball. He had a kind of a fascinating experience, if I could digress for a moment. He was 16 years of age, and he went down to the 1939 World Series at Crosley Field and stood in line. And he got there early, and he told me he stood in line, literally he was there for 16 hours. And then they opened this up, and he was with his buddy, and they had a deal. If they got separated, he would, whoever got to the front of the line would buy 2 tickets, which is what you could buy. The maximum you could buy was 2. So he said when they came in and they actually opened those lines up, they opened, a lot fewer lines than everybody thought. And so then everybody was rushing. So anyway, he lost his buddy. Long story short, lost his buddy. He bought his 2 tickets, started looking for his buddy, and just couldn't find him. So finally, it's almost game time. So he goes into Old Crosley Field. Somehow he manages to go up to the top. I'm not so sure exactly where he was, but he said he could look down and see his buddy. And there's another 16-year-old kid who was walking away. And he said the kid was crying. And so he yells at him and finally gets his attention. And my grandfather had given my dad a silver dollar. He said, always carry the silver dollar. If something ever happens, at least you got the silver dollar. So he took the silver dollar, somehow wrapped it with this ticket, so he had some weight to it, threw it down to the guy. The guy got the ticket and came in the game. So when we bought this minor league baseball team down in Asheville, our son Brian runs it, and Brian had worked in minor league baseball for a number of years before, and so he named the organization that we had to create a company. And he called it DeWine Seeds. That was the business we were in. DeWine Seeds Silver Dollar Baseball after my dad. So it goes way back in the family, and that was the team. But the team I started growing up with was that mid '50s Cincinnati Reds team. We only, of course, had eight teams in each league at that time, and I've kept my interest. Some years I remember a lot better than other years. But I think when you're a kid, you always remember. You can almost do I can literally do the starting lineup, in 56 or 55, 56, 57.
That's much that World Series ticket cost from 1939.
Well, we've got it actually, and Brian, our son's got it now up hanging. in his house. And my dad, after my parents died, they had a few silver dollars. And my wife went in and started looking through the silver dollars because she knew the story. And what are the chances that silver dollar is still around? Well, my dad was born in 1923. And so she found one silver dollar in there. It was 1923. And it looked like it would have been worn a lot more. In other words, it might have been in someone's pocket. So our story, at least, our belief is that was the silver dollar that he threw to his buddies. So who knows? We'll never know. But
Governor, when you were growing up, did you pretend to be any particular Reds player when you were playing baseball?
Oh yeah, it's Johnny Temple, second base. My dad always liked Temple because he was a scrappy guy. This was before Pete, but he was kind of a forerunner of Pete in that sense that you always kind of figured he was playing beyond his maybe his natural talents, but he had such drive and such determination that he was aggressive. My dad always liked that, and I kind of like that. So I tell people I thought I was going to be second baseman for the Reds until I got to be 8 or 9, and sort of figured that probably wasn't going to happen. So.
Was that your position? Were you an infielder? Is that the position you normally played?
Yeah, actually, I was never very good at all. My hope when I went to bat was I got a walk. That would be my big accomplishment. And in Little League, if you wait long enough, a lot of times you can get a walk. But,
sure.
But I did play second base. I played the outfield. Did other things, but I wasn't very good. So.
My first baseball glove was a Johnny Temple glove. My brother, it was a hand-me-down from my brother-in-law, and I think by the time I got it, Johnny Temple was probably not playing anymore. But I have a little bit of an affinity for Johnny Temple.
Yeah, that's funny. Oh.
But you mentioned Roy McMillan. We did a podcast with John Arardi, a former sports writer for the Enquirer, and he was telling us that I think it was Jim O'Toole, the great pitcher for the Reds, said that Roy McMillan was the best shortstop that ever played behind him. So that was
really? Wow.
Pretty high praise, yeah.
Let me give you my trivia though, because it's a segue from Jim O'Toole. And I had a chance to meet Jim O'Toole a couple times, long after he was playing. But the late Jim O'Toole and I have a common great granddaughter.
Really?
Yeah. So our grandson married his granddaughter. So, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. Well, you both had a lot of kids. I know that.
He had a big family, and we have they married into big families. So
that's great.
Anyway, a little trivia. So I'm sorry I interrupted you.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. Randy, you're asking me something.
Yeah, about Reds on radio. Did you listen to a lot of games growing up?
Yeah, I mean, in those days there were not many on TV. Back in those days, in the 50s, there just were not. I mean, they might do 15 TV games a year, and that was about it. So it was Waite Hoyt on the radio, and again, people don't. It's hard for a baseball fan to believe this today, but in those days, the away games, they didn't go to those away games, and they're sitting in the studio, in Cincinnati, and you hear the ticker tape go every time that there was a pitch or every time that something happened, and Waite would have to recreate it on the radio. So if they're in Philadelphia or they were in Pittsburgh, he wasn't there. And he was, those radio announcers got pretty good at recreating that game. But yeah, and of course, Waite was famous not only for playing with Babe Ruth and being a really great pitcher himself, but when he became a broadcaster, what a lot of people remember is what happened when it rained, and Waite would start telling stories about usually about the Babe, and then he'd start laughing. He said, "Well, I can't tell you that story." He says, "That like on the radio." He says, "I can't really tell you that one, folks." And then you just had to imagine with the Babe, but he would start laughing a lot of times in telling the stories, and it was fun. There's still some of those records hanging around in Ohio. We've got one buried somewhere where they put they took some of those audios from Waite when it was raining, and there's an old album called Waite in the Rain, and I haven't listened to it for a while, but it's he was a great storyteller.
Yeah, I was at the tail end of Waite Hoyt. I think he was doing some TV when I was a kid, and it was one of those things where, in my mind, he was a broadcaster. It was a real shock when I discovered what a great baseball player he was. I mean, I think he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and I now use him when I play the Immaculate Grid a lot when they ask for, and it's a good answer. He's still a little bit obscure. How about, were you able to get to games when you were young?
Yeah, in those days from our home in Yellow Springs, today it's an hour and 10-minute drive for me to get down there. It's 2 hours because there's no interstates, and so we were on Route 42 going down all the way through Lebanon, all that way. So we got to some games. Those games, the night games started at 8 o'clock, 8:05, which was kind of crazy. So my dad, we'd drive down, and you get back at 1 a.m. or something. So
yeah,
it was crazy. So we would probably average 4 or 5 games a year that we would go down to. I remember I always wanted to go to opening day, and never been to an opening day game. And so we had a Catholic priest then, Father Bertkey. Was his name, and he knew some of the people at Crosley Field, and we were talking, and he was great with kids, and I was 16, and we were talking about this. He said, "Okay," so I'll get you tickets. So my dad and I and a friend of ours, salesman for my dad by the name of Keith Sheridan, and Father Bertkey went to opening day, and it turns out as I look back on it, it was Pete Rose's first game.
Oh,
so kind of an historic, didn't think much of it at the time, probably. It's a new guy playing for the Reds, but, turned out to be.
Yeah, 1963.
Yes, yeah. So I was in high school, and I think 16 at the time. So, yeah. Took off school. So, those games were always, of course, during the day. I think they usually started about 2 o'clock, something like that.
Yeah. What was your excuse?
Yeah, that's right. Well, so, of course, Cincinnati closes down, doesn't it, on opening day?
Oh, yeah.
The other crazy thing that I don't think people would believe is, in those days in Old Crosley Field, they would sell tickets for opening day in the outfield, and they'd literally put seats in the outfield. And so if the ball was hit in there, I guess it was a ground rule double. I don't know. I can't remember how they did it, but you never would do. No one would ever think about doing that today, but hey, they could sell a lot more tickets, and they put people in left field and right field.
Yeah. Yeah, the terrace in left field, right? Yeah. I guess.
Right on the terrace.
Oh yeah,
right on.
Yeah,
right
they had
on
a rope. They had a rope in front of it. It was a ground rule double. If it bounced in there, I think it was a ground rule double. Yeah. I think if it went over the rope, it was a home run.
Is that right?
I'm not positive.
Of course, that old field. You remember that had a sign up there. Okay, my dog is coming. Dolly, what do you want? What's going on? They had a sign up there. If you hit this sign, the ball player got a free suit from some. Hit the suit, you get or hit the sign, you get a free suit. Every once in a while, someone would whack, Wally Post or somebody would whack that one. So it was kind of funny.
Remember that well. Yeah, now I guess they've got a Toyota Tundra, but I don't know if anybody's ever going to win that. That is situated in a place that you wonder.
It would be a towering hit, wouldn't it? That high and just yeah. I think the odds of that happening aren't too good. So.
Well, they also had a sign out there. If you hit the sign, you won 55 gallons of gas from Marathon.
Oh, I remember
I can
that.
remember
too.
that.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
about taking your kids and grandkids down to the ballpark, Governor? You get a chance to take them down the riverfront or GABP?
We do. We went. Some of us went down for opening day this year, and we're going. Got tickets for this coming Saturday night. In fact, so we're going down. I guess a 4:10 game with the Cubs. Of course, one of the more irritating things. I'm sure you've experienced this. If you go to Reds versus the Cubs, there's so many Cubs fans there. It's you wonder where they come from. They're always pretty. They're always pretty noisy with their blue.
Yeah, they are.
Anyway, but yeah, through the years, I mean, a friend of mine, Tom Rose, is a federal judge now.
Yeah.
He and I were law partners. My friend late Bill Skink. Back in '73, I think it was, we got a group together to buy season tickets, and so we've been season ticket holders with different people in the group. We have 8 now, since '73. So we've, we went to a lot of, certainly a lot of games with the Big Red Machine. We went through that whole era, and then of course, 1990 as well. So you kind of think of the highlights. You think of the years when things were going great. But those were two, great periods of time to watch Reds baseball.
So you've had that group together since 1973?
Yeah. I mean, it's Tom and I are the only 2 common ones left. But it's been expanded. Some of them are son Pat's friends. Our son Pat's in it now. But 1973. So
That's fantastic.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
One of the things they used to do during the Big Red Machine era, if you remember, they had Bat Day, and if you had a paying adult and a child, they would give you a bat, and it was a real bat. I mean, you saw this whole stadium full of people with these bats. I suppose for security, they wouldn't think about passing out a real bat. So we never had, we've got 8 kids, so we never had a problem with matching kids up. So Fran and I would, in those days, I think we had 3 kids. We had our son Pat, of course, and our daughter Jill and Becky, and I think Becky would still sit on Fran's lap. So anyway, the 5 of us would go down, and we'd end up with 2 bats, and it was anyway, just kind of a cool thing.
It was.
Well, we always ask our guests about trades in Reds history. Are there any trades in your memory that you either remember as either extremely good or extremely bad?
Well, I suppose the extremely good one is the one that brought Joe Morgan to the Reds. I think that was with Houston, wasn't it?
Yep.
So we always remember. You remember the real good ones, and then of course you remember the ones that turn out to be horrible. And of course, the probably classic one in Reds history is when we traded Frankie Robinson, and that didn't work out too well. I suppose it worked out pretty well for him, most valuable player in both leagues. That's pretty a major achievement. But we have to. I think that's probably the most infamous trade. And
broken your heart as a fan in the 50s. I mean,
Yeah, he was still clearly, by retrospect, hindsight's always great, but he clearly had a long career still ahead of him. Obviously very, very productive.
Yeah, that one stands out. There's no doubt about it. But I was upset. I was upset when they traded for Morgan. I liked Lee May and I liked Tommy Helms, and my dad told me that it was going to be okay. We needed the speed, we needed the defense. So my dad was a little wiser than I was. But,
my guess is I probably felt the same way that you did. I mean, these are players you're watching, and they're doing. Lee May, as I remember, hit one home run in one of the playoffs to win it. I don't know if that was 72 or 70, what year it was, but when you traded him and Helms, you thought, well, that's just stupid. but
why they make the big bucks.
These guys get paid to make these trades, so they certainly know more than I know.
So now we asked Howard Wilkinson, of all the politicians he's covered, who were the true baseball fans, and he said you, and he said Sherrod Brown were the two true fans. A lot of politicians kind of fake it, but he said you guys were tried and true. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, look, Sherrod is a really knows baseball. I mean, this guy really focuses on it. I mean, if you had him on here today, I mean, he could go through the whole Guardians lineup. He could tell you, who he thought was this and that, and I've actually been with him to games where we're seated close together with the Guardians. I mean, he's a huge Guardian fan, huge Indian fan, but the guy will keep score, he's really good.
Did you know Bruce Rauner, who was the governor of Illinois for a while?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
The reason I ask, I through a weird set of circumstances was in Chicago for Ernie Banks's funeral, and I happened to go to that funeral just at the last. We were literally walking past the church and decided to go in, and he spoke. He gave a homily, or not a homily, eulogy, and he was he blew me away because he was a big fan. You could just tell as he's giving his eulogy, he kind of got sidetracked talking about the 1969 Cubs team, and so I didn't know if you had crossed paths with him ever, but I remember being very impressed with his bona fides as a fan.
Something I've noticed. I don't know why this is, but if you look at people who run for office as a group, they're disproportionately high number of them who are real fans of sports and of baseball. You could be. I remember when I was in the U.S. Senate, Democrats had a cloakroom, Republicans had a cloakroom. There weren't any cloaks anymore, but anyway, that's what they called them. And if we were in session at night, there'd always be a game on. During baseball season, there's always, and you'd sit down and you listen to these guys, and they're very knowledgeable. I mean, they knew not only whatever team they were following, but they knew players from other teams. So it's I don't know what it is, but maybe the same thing that attracts people to run for office for some reason gets a disproportionate number of people who really focus a lot on sports and actually do follow it, not just superficially, but really do.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting observation.
Do you feel like you have to split your, as governor? Do you feel like you have to split your allegiance between the Guardians and the Reds, or do you just own up to the fact that you're a Reds fan?
No, I just own up to the fact that I'm a Reds fan. But look, I'll root for the Guardians. If I go to a game, we've got a son, Mark, who lives in the Cleveland area. We go to a game. I certainly root for the Guardians. It doesn't pose the problem that the Bengals and Browns does, because they're in the same division, same conference, and then that's a direct conflict. I mean, Indians and Reds or Guardians and Reds, that's not a conflict, unless they both make it to the World Series. So it's no conflict. But look, grew up as a Reds fan, and although one of the things, again, in my memory, when I was 7, it was 1954, and so my dad got tickets to the World Series. We went to Cleveland for games 3 and 4, and there was not a game 5, so we were headed to go to that game as well. But so I do remember that. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I was thinking about Willie Mays' catch, but I guess that was in Game 1 in the Polo Grounds, I think, right?
Yeah, it's funny. So I was coming home from school, and we lived in Yellow Springs, didn't live far from the school, and the day that Mays hit the home run, my dad literally saw me coming, and he was actually home. He was never home during the day, but he was home watching the game, which was just totally out of character. He was always working, But anyway, he yelled out the door to me. I mean, hey, you better come. He says, Willie Mays just made a fabulous catch. And that just sticks in my mind. So I didn't see it. I didn't see it on TV, but my dad described it to me right away. So.
No social media to watch endless replays.
What
mentioned briefly
I'm sorry?
Your Asheville team, your minor league team. How did that come about?
Well, our son Brian ended up going to Clemson and majored in sports management. He got a master's at Ohio State in the same field. He's always been interested in sports and business. So he started working for minor league baseball teams. And about 15 years ago, I said, look, if we can buy a team, can we do okay? Can we make any money? And he says, yes, if we buy it right and if we, run it right. I said, well, you're going to be running it. So, but we've actually done well. So we bought the team and ended up buying it. This team was owned by the Detroit Pistons, of all things. And they had made a decision that they didn't put the team up for sale, but it was clear from talking to people that if you approached them, they would, start negotiating with you. So we looked at potentially different teams and ended up negotiating this with the Pistons. They were ready to get out of minor league baseball. They also had a hockey team down in Florida, and I think they got rid of it about the same time. And so we bought the team, and our son Brian, his wife Kaylee. It's a small business, so all three kids are at different times involved in it. Our grandson, who's here with us, Parker, is a bat boy. So we got a chance last weekend to be down there and watch him work as a bat boy. It was also free Jersey Day down there, pink jerseys. People started lining up at 1:30 for a 6 o'clock game. It was crazy, and all three of the kids and our daughter Kaylee, our daughter-in-law Kaylee, were out, passing them out as people came in. So it's just a little small business. It's really a family business.
What are they affiliated with a major league team or?
Yeah, they're affiliated with Houston. We don't have choices in that matter, but we're fine. Brian says that Houston's fine to work with, very good to work with. Before that, the team that we were affiliated with was the Colorado Rockies. And I know watching the game the other night, Parker was telling me, well, that player, used to play at Asheville, and he knew some of the names. So,
at what level? What are they? Double A or?
They are a single A. We were before all the changes in minor league baseball a couple of years ago that major leagues brought about. We were a low A. Now we're a high A. So South Atlantic League.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Did they ever play the Savannah Bananas?
No, if they did, they may have played years ago. But as my son says, they're pretty funny, but they're not a real minor league team in a sense.
You're right.
They're kind of like if you like the Globetrotters, you'll like the Savannah Bananas. We went to see them in Akron last year, and we thought they were fun. It's an entertaining couple hours.
Yeah.
They do a nice job.
We vacation in Hilton Head every year, and we've looked at getting tickets. You can't get tickets for them.
No. Well, they sold out here in Columbus. I think 3 straight nights at the Columbus ball field. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's fun.
Well, Governor, how about Major League Baseball? How do you feel the game has changed in the years you've watched it, and do you think the changes are for better or for worse?
Well, I like the recent change. I'm a traditionalist. I'm still not a great fan of the designated batter. I kind of like it when the pitchers had to bat, and every once in a while a pitcher would actually get a hit. Remember, for the Reds, Joe Nuxall was a pretty darn good hitter. So I kind of like that. I don't like changes, but I do like the pitch clock. I think the games are much more reasonable time. If you go back and I can't remember the exact time, but if you look, I've looked up, for example, the World Series games my dad went to in 39 and 40. those games were like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And, they just went out and did it. I mean, the pitcher pitched and the hitters hit, and they just, they went at it. Pitchers, we usually try to go the distance. But I think, these games kept creeping longer and longer. And, it's a better experience at 2 hours, 20 minutes than 3 hours and 10 minutes. You're seeing just as much action, and you're seeing it in a little more compressed period of time. And I think it's more the way baseball was being played. So I think it really took us back to where we were, probably when I was growing up, and the length of games and the speed. So I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I know. I think too, I think part of the reason the games went a little quicker is there just weren't as many strikeouts, and I think guys put the ball in play a little, were just didn't want to strike out, and this notion of working the count and that sort of thing was sort of foreign to people. It's it'd be interesting to see some of those box scores, from back then. But you look back on some of the pitchers who we think of as being really, really great, and their strikeout totals weren't quite what maybe a more modern pitcher is. But it just wasn't done. I mean, it was like just unacceptable.
Well, when you think about it, though, I mean, these pitchers now, if they go 5 innings, if they go 6, it's great. Very few are going to last beyond 6 innings. They're bringing people in who are going to pitch an inning, and they just throw as hard as they can throw. They do, it's a more specialized game. I think the pitchers in some respects are more dominant. So yeah, it's. There's always that balance, and a strikeout is not exactly an interesting thing to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things I like about the current Reds team is they run, and I like that. I like the fact I like to see them bunt. Last night or the night before, I forget which it was. We had 2 bunts right in a row, and that was, to me, I like the small ball. I like the action. Home run is always fun if it's your team, but a triple is a lot more exciting if you think about it, to watch. And so there's always this balance, and they're getting close to a balance where the pitchers are so dominant, that it takes there's just too many strikeouts. I think now, as far as if they're playing at Crosley Field, that's adds a little bit, makes it a little easier for the batter to get a hit.
I like the rule change that I like the pitch clock too, but the one that people don't talk about as much is just the requirement that a relief pitcher face 3 batters. Because I used to hate watching Tony La Russa manage, and left-handed pitcher. Okay, then he comes out to the mound again and gets a right-hander. Then he comes out to the mound again and gets like, it was like, God, this is never going to end.
They're playing chess back and forth. I mean, what pinch hitter are they going to put up? They see which pinch hitter it is, right-hander, left-hander. Then they change the pitcher. So yeah, I agree, and we don't talk about that hardly at all. But I think that's helpful as well. The other thing is, I never thought it would make much difference, but apparently, they've changed the base size a little bit, and I guess it makes it a little easier, to get a stolen base. Although this idea of wearing a glove that is it's got extra padding or whatever it is seems to me a little goofy. That's pretty goofy. I think they ought to be some standard size glove you're wearing there.
It seems like they get a little extra room to reach for the base, extra half inch on their fingers or something.
Yeah, it just strikes me as kind of goofy, though. I don't know.
Got to put the oven mitt on. Got to put the oven mitt on.
That's right.
That's right. Well, Governor, we've taken up a lot of your time. I know you're very busy. We certainly appreciate you making the time, and I hope Parker enjoyed listening. And you handled yourself so well you didn't have to ask the audience for any assistance here. That's pretty impressive.
Well, I appreciate being on. I said, as I told you guys before we started, you're the highlight of my day. So we've dealt with a few other things today that aren't quite as much fun. So.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Governor. Another standing ovation.
Old town standing about Cincinnati. What a team, what a team, what a team. Man and lady from 1 to 80, how they scream, how they scream, how they scream.